Hi everyone, my name is Ivy. I am with Be the Change Vietnam team, and the topic for this video is sex education. I know this is the topic a lot of you probably don't get to discuss with your family or in school, so I hope what we discuss here in this video can be somewhat helpful to you, and you're definitely encouraged to look more into details into different topics, and I think you should know more about this. So the main purpose of this video is really to give you an overview of the different issues involved, and then you can decide if you're interested, you want to explore more, you want to do more research on your own. So the way I'm going to do this is to talk about 5 very popular myths about sex, why they are wrong, what's the science behind them, and what are the social issues involved. And I hope this is helpful. So let's jump right into it. The first myth I want to talk about is the idea that people have sex only to have babies. Since a lot of you probably know, you as child of your parents, they had sex, and that's why they had you. But having baby isn't the only reason why people have sex. For example, a large reason why people have sex is because it's a pleasant experience. And there's actually biological and scientific evidence behind it. When this is what we call orgasm, so it's basically a discharge of accumulated sexual excitement. It's a biological process. It's very natural. You feel, if you're happy, you feel you've relieved stress. So it's definitely not wrong to have sex for pleasure. And also, there's nothing to be shy about when people talk about sex. In fact, according to different scientific experiments, the adult male on average thinks about sex between 19 to 7,200 times per day. So that's pretty often, and it's pretty normal that you think about sex. In addition, there are also scientific evidence about the benefits, the health benefits of having sex. A lot of medical experts and doctors, they actually agree on this. Like popular benefits that people talk about, such as it boosts your immune systems, you're less likely to get sick, it lowers your blood pressure and reduce the risk of heart attack, easing stress. So these are the basic health benefits. So overall, first myth is to just tell you that there's nothing wrong about having sex for pleasure, and it's pretty normal that people think about sex and talk about sex. And then the second myth is kissing and holding hands or drinking from the same water bottle will get you pregnant. I think a lot of young kids had this conception that any kind of physical contact will actually result in having a baby. This is absolutely not true. The babies are produced, or fetuses are produced through this fertilization process. And this fertilization process usually involves the sperm, which is produced in the male testicle, and the egg, which is produced in the female ovary. So it's correct that it normally involves a male and a female, and involves some kind of physical contact, but it's not that once you drink you share a water bottle, you're going to get pregnant, right? So what does the fertilization process look like normally? So what happens, this is what we call sexual intercourse. So this is when the male inserts penis into the female's vagina during a sexual intercourse, and that's how the sperms actually get into the female's body and meets the egg. This is a process. You can find a lot of online videos on this, but this isn't the only way how babies are produced. Some babies are produced through test tubes. The different kinds of intraviral technologies that help people to have babies, but still the most biological process for producing a baby is this sexual intercourse. But it's also wrong to think that sexual intercourse, penis in vagina sex, is the only form of sex that exists. Sex is actually a very diverse concept. There are very different ways people can have sex, can derive pleasure from having sex. Also, it doesn't necessarily involve a boy and a girl or a man and a woman. It can be male and male or female and female. It can also be masturbation. All these are ways people have sex and pleasure themselves through this kind of physical stimulation. And it's all quite natural. There's nothing wrong about those. So diverse sexualities. Myth 3 is having sex always has bad consequences. This is a very popular way for, I would say, some teachers and maybe even your parents try to scare you with is say, well, if you have sex, if you try this, there's going to be very bad consequences, well, pregnancy. But as we just talked about, like producing a baby or being pregnant actually involves the actual process involves the contact between a sperm and the female egg. So this means there are ways for you to prevent the sperm from contacting the egg while still enjoying sex. So it's not that having sex always have bad consequences. And another bad consequence I guess people talk about is STD. So this is sexually transmitted diseases. These are infections that are passed from one person to another during vaginal, anal, or oral sex. This is pretty common. A lot of people don't even experience lots of symptoms. But I think you should definitely look into this because it's a disease. There's more information about this on the Planned Parenthood organization's website. And it's quite simple to just always use a condom and make sure the semen doesn't contact, it doesn't really get into the female body. And I think that's pretty much the most common way of preventing this kind of problem. So what are some of the popular birth control methods? There are condoms, and this is a male condom and how you actually put on a male condom. So you kind of like put it on the penis when it's hard, and then you roll it down, cover the penis, but also you want to leave a little bit. So in step 3, you want to leave a little space at the top so that semen actually has space when they get ejected out of the penis. And there's also birth control pills. So these are also called oral contraceptives. So normally it's the girls that take birth control pills. So this actually controls their body so they don't produce eggs or their eggs don't actually come out. So even if there is semen, they won't actually get pregnant. And a little bit special, this one, morning after pill. This is not a regular birth control method, so you don't take it on a daily basis. You only take it after having had sex, most likely unprotected sex, and you're worried you're gonna get pregnant, so you should take this. It's quite literal morning after pill. Different birth control methods and contraceptives. And then moving on to myth 4. This is also another extreme that some people have in their mind. People say you can only have sex, you can have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want it. This statement ignores a very important concept called consent, because sex is a mutual act, is a mutual experience. You want both two parties to feel happy, that they are okay with what's going on. And it's a very intimate process, so you don't want to have one person that's not feeling comfortable when they are engaging in this act. So the concept of consent, when one of the parties, they don't actually consent to having sex, when they don't want to have sex, but you force them to have sex, obviously that's sexual assault or rape. This is forcible sexual relations with a person against that person's will. And in Vietnam, the age of consent is 16, which means before the age of 16, you are not considered to be able to consent to having sex. And the ability to consent obviously is affected by your age. If you are too young, maybe you can't consider all the consequences. You can't consider all the factors, and you can't actually meaningfully consent to this act. There are also other factors such as alcohol. If you are impaired by alcohol, if you are drunk, then you are not able to meaningfully consent. Another important thing to notice is there's no closing age exemption in Vietnam. What we mean by closing age exemption is, for example, even if both of you are below 16, one of you is, say, for example, 14, the other is 15, you are very closing age. So in some countries, this kind of the sex between these two minors, even though they are both below the age of consent, it's still considered okay because they're both very young. It's very unlikely that one party is abusing the other party or forcing the other party into something the other party have no idea about. But it's very important to note that this type of law, this kind of exemption, doesn't exist in Vietnam. So if you are at the age of 16 and you're having sex with someone 15 or 14, even though you are so closing age, it's still considered unconsensual sexual act. Okay, so that's about consent. Another last notice on this point is it's really a mutual experience. It's about both parties being comfortable, being happy, and enjoy this process. So it's not like, I know there's sometimes this conception that the guy is always supposed to enjoy sex more than the girl. This is absolutely wrong. Both two parties are supposed to be able to enjoy this process, to talk about what they feel comfortable with and what they don't feel comfortable with. And I think this kind of communication is very important between the two. There's no like one person's feeling is more important than the other person's feeling type of thing. Okay, so that's myth number 4. And the last one I want to talk about is this notion that you should not have sex until you get married, or you can only be committed to one person. I would say everyone should be free to have their own definition of what's like when it's appropriate for someone to have sex, and whether it's appropriate for someone to have sex before they get married. But it would be very wrong for you to try to impose your idea on someone else, or if someone try to impose their idea, try to tell you that you should never engage in sex before marriage. But if you want to, I think you should still kind of have your own judgment on the issue and form your own opinion on it, and not judge other person or not let yourself be abused under this type of notion. And actually, premarital sex in Vietnam, so premarital sex, obviously, it means having sex before getting married. It's actually not a very rare phenomenon in Vietnam. I have the results from 2 scientific studies here. One of them say by the age of 22, 29% of unmarried men and 16% of unmarried women have had sex. So pretty much 3 in every 10 guys, or 2 in every 10 girls have had sex before they get married. It's not something that's very rare. And another one has among never married respondents aged between 22 to 25, about 33% of men and 4% of women in urban areas have actually engaged in premarital sex. So it's not something that's very rare that you should be ashamed about if you ever decided to have premarital sex, or you should judge someone else for having done so. And then this is just very briefly the sources where I got these 2 research results in case you want to look further into that. Okay, so these are the 5 myths about sex. Again, this video is only meant to be an introductory type of video, and we want to cover as many issues as possible. So I didn't actually go in depth into a lot of the issues, and I think it will be helpful if you are interested. You can look further into that, but also make sure that you are looking at credible sources, not sources that try to impose their ideas on you or give you a very biased number. So you should look at different sources and compare and form your own opinion. Okay, so I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, that's it.